taking time out of your busy schedule. I know that it is a Sunday, it's a weekend, but still you did your best to make it. So thank you for exerting your time and energy. Thank you for sharing things together. Thank you for being amazing community online. So thank you all for joining us. Let me first get started with a reminder of previous activities and endeavors conducted by Dr. Gmgani Mohammed, who talked in a PowerPoint presentation about research in EMI and language development, EMI and teaching and learning theories, practices, EMI and accommodation needs, general and or specific purposes, EMI in the Global South, Morocco, Egypt, and Sri Lanka. He also tackled the issue why EMI. So for internationalization, as English is a lingua franca, for work needs, and for investments, be it personal or institutional. English as a medium of instruction. So he talked about the use of the English language to teach academic subjects, an educational system where content is taught through English, and EMI as content and language educational approach. So today we have a special guest, and I'm very glad to introduce her. So we have a special guest, Ms. Dalia Fouad, and of course we are going to have 3 webinars. The first one conducted by Dalia Fouad within the Egyptian context today, July the 7th, 2024. The second one is we are going to have the second webinar by Darshana Samaraiwera, Sri Lanka context, in September the 7th, 2024. And last but not least, the third webinar, who is going to be conducted by our guest, special guest is going to be Hassan Belhiyah within the Moroccan context on October the 5th, 2024. So it's like we have 3 webinars that are going to take place. The first one is taking place today. So there will be kind of a continuum, 3 different participants talking about 3 different contexts. So we are very thankful for the 3 guests, and we are today very grateful to Ms. Dalia Fouad, who accepted to give us a talk about the EMI within the Egyptian context. So her title is EMI in the Global South, Dialogical Perspective and Egyptian Context in Focus. And let me first introduce Ms. Delia before she gives her presentation. So we can talk about a background of more than 20 years in the field of education. So we can say that Ms. Delia is an expert within the field of education. We are going to learn a lot from you. Dalia Fouad has been teaching school students, university students, and adults. Furthermore, she has the experience of educational content development, teachers' professional development, and organizational management skills. She is currently a lecturer in AUC and the director of educational content and the director in Mahdat Misr Publishing Group, where she is responsible for all the educational content, paper and digital content, and capacity building conducted for ministries, educational, organizational, and the public. Dalia is a certified instructor with a BA in Business Administration, an MA in TFL, and a PhD in Education. So thank you, Ms. Dalia, for joining us. So the floor is yours. You can start your presentation.
Thank you, Rashida. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone, and welcome. As Rashida mentioned, my name is Dalia Fouad. And today we're going to talk about English as a medium of instruction in the Egyptian context. But before we go to the Egyptian context, we have to know why English? Why are we talking about English? Why has English become a global language? This has been to several reasons. The main reason was, of course, the British Empire. And following that, it's the mother tongue by approximately 400 million people in the world. So that's actually a big number of people. And also at the same time, It's the official language in 53 countries. And it is the third most spoken language after Chinese and Spanish, because we know how the Chinese people are a lot and the Spanish is being spoken in a lot of places. And it's the most common second language in education in 122 countries. So 122 countries in the whole world take English as a second language. And also, it's the language of science and technology, and it is the language of the internet and the press and movies and songs. Of course, the Hollywood, the jazz, the pop, and the raps, and all this are all in English. And because of the American economic wars, and then we have the snowball effect. So everything with the snowball effect is enlarged. So it has become a global language, and no one can say that English is not the global language. Wherever you go, if you don't know the language of the country, you ask them, do you speak English or not? But English as a medium of instruction has been defined as the use of English language to teach academic subjects other than English itself in countries where the first language of the population is not English. And this has been defined by the University of Oxford. The Department of Education have set this definition. Then again, if English is booming, why is EMI booming in specific? Why is BMI booming? In a survey on EMI provisions in 55 countries that was conducted by Oxford Research Group, they concluded that it's greatly expanding, which is EMI, mainly due to, first of all, the internationalization of the higher education. It's rare, very rare now that we see in countries the higher education is being dominated by the government. No, we do have a lot of private universities and a lot of universities that are owned by board of directors, and very rare do we have the governments of these countries that own the higher education. And of course, the globalization, because English is needed for global and international employment. Currently, we're working on a project with a Japanese company, and the language of communication between me and them is in English. So English is needed for global and international employment. And it is the need of educational organizations to compete. Because of the privatization of education, now educational organizations have to compete. So they compete by providing the EMI. And English being an international language, especially in research, most of the research is being published in English, and it's a solid foundation for accompanying English as the second language or English as a foreign language, students' academic and professional goals. Are there any benefits of EMI? Yes, of course, otherwise it wouldn't be booming that much. The first thing is that when you study EMI, when you study subjects in English or use English as a medium of instructions, this means that you're allocating more time to learning English as a second language, which we mentioned earlier that it's the most common second language taught in the whole world. And also, you enhance the language proficiency. And when we're talking about language proficiency, we're talking about both fluency and accuracy for both the teachers and the students. And I can tell you something that happened to me. I've been learning in an English school, and I'm a graduate from the American University in Cairo, and my master's and my PhD were from the American University in London. And yet, at some point of time in my life, I've stopped using English in communication. And when I returned back, I can have it all in my mind, but I cannot say it as fluent as, and it's accurate, okay, but it's not as fluent as before. I had to do some thinking and some translation in the middle because I haven't been using English a lot in communication. And this really enhances the language proficiency. It also increases our chances for better jobs. If I have an employee that's admitting for some job or applying for some job, now definitely I will take the one with the English, with the better English. And it can facilitate the international mobility, whether I'm talking about work, studying abroad, chances of traveling, and so on. Of course, English facilitates the international mobility. And it also raises intercultural awareness and cultural understanding, because when you learn English in the EMI, you read about it in the science and in the math and in the social studies. You can focus on understanding the content, and instead of understanding
So we apologize for this technical issue. So Ms. Delia is going to be back soon. So I want just to inform the attendees that this webinar is being recorded, and that if you have any questions, I would like to invite you to write all your questions within the commentary section. So you can write a comment or any question, feel free. You are here to share information, to agree, to disagree, to compare maybe things related to Egyptian context with the Moroccan context or any other context. Yes, thank you for writing your questions. So we have here one question. How does EMI differ from ESP? We will have a section by the end after Ms. Delia's presentation, which is just mainly for answering questions. So I wish we will have enough time to answer all your questions. That's interesting. Thank you for your question. How does EMI differ from ESP? Interesting. Other attendees can also be ready to answer the questions, share their views. So Ms. Dalia is joining us right now. So Ms. Dalia, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm sorry about that. Something happened in the connection. I'm sorry. So,
hello, Ms. Dalia. How are you doing?
Fine, Rashida. Sorry about that. So I'll give you an overview about how schools are structured in Egypt.
I would like to ask the other attendees if they can hear Ms. Dalia before she gets started. Can you hear her?
Yes, it's fine, Rashida. It's fine.
Thank you, Mohammed. So the structure of the schools in Egypt, we have, of course, the main thing is the government schools. And when we're talking about the government schools, they just not simply as simple as I'm talking government schools. We do have the Arabic schools. These make the majority of the government schools, but we also have what we call experimental schools. Experimental schools are special schools that give the math and the science in English, and they provide a better education than the Arabic schools. So the number of students are less, the caliber of the teachers are higher, and there are a lot of facilities more than the Arabic schools. We also have the language schools, which are either English or French. They provide English as a main language or French as a main language. And these also provide math and science in English. We also have the Japanese schools. The Japanese schools have been structured 5 years ago. Since 2018, they started. And these are being sponsored by the Japanese government. And they provide the curriculum in English, but they also provide some Japanese subjects like that teach character building and so on. We have the international public schools, and these are new schools that provide an international certificate. And like the Nile schools, we have IPS schools, all these schools, they provide an international certificate at the end of the academic year. Then we go to the private schools, which are in number much less than the government schools. We have the Arabic private schools, and then we also have the national institutes, which are a group of schools that has been privatized, but at the same time, they abide to the Ministry of Education system. We have the language schools. We also have English and French. We do have the religious schools, whether there's Catholic, the Catholic schools, they provide English or French, and we have the Islamic schools. Then there's the international schools that provide IB, IG, American High School Diploma, the BAC, the Abitur. So all the international certificates are available. We have Al-Azhar School. Al-Azhar School is the biggest religious institute in the whole Arab world. And they have their own schools and they have their own university and so on. And then finally, we have the embassy schools. The embassy schools are schools that are being owned by the embassy. We have the CAC by the American Embassy, the BISC by the British Embassy. We have Lycée Française by the French Embassy. We have NCBIS, which is by the Dutch Embassy, and so on. So these are embassy schools that don't give Arabic language or religion or anything like that, but they give their own international certificates. In 2018, Egypt launched a new education system, the NES. It was previously called the Education Reform 2.0, but then later they changed it to NES because it's not 2.0 anymore. It extended more than that. So they changed the name into the NES. The main reason why this education reform was integrated was that Egypt started its own strategic vision for 2030, and they had a vision for how the student should be that will graduate at 2030. So they started in 2018, which means that this student will start today, will stay for 12 years in the academic school system and will graduate in 2030 after 12 years with the new education system. The reform aimed to improve the quality of education. So it did not only talk about the curriculum, but it also talked about the school system, the education system as a whole. The focus mainly was on developing competency-based, multi- and interdisciplinary curriculum, technology integrated, and reformed assessment, because the assessment was so much on the lower standards of Bloom's taxonomy. So they wanted it to be more on the higher standards of Bloom's taxonomy and more of higher order thinking skills. And all this is in line with the 21st century life skills. The Egyptian Knowledge Bank was launched also even before the 2018. It was launched in 2016, and it's currently available to the 25 million students and teachers free of charge. They only go with every student in Egypt has a Microsoft account, so they log in at the EKB with their Microsoft account. And even on the website of the Ministry of Education, you can find all the learning objects of the EKB available on the website. The EKB includes digital books, encyclopedias, you have dictionaries, you have interactive digital content from grades K to 12, and all the books are available on the EKB. Also, professional development programs were continuously administered, both face-to-face and online, for all the teachers, and it's all free of charge. No one is being charged anything for any professional development. What's the status of the English language in the new education system? We have two things. We have the O level. It's being taught in the public and private Arabic schools from KG1 to grade 12, and it's called Connect. And by the way, the Arabic curriculum has the same name in Arabic. It's called Tawassul, so it's the same concept. So we have the O level. It is available for everyone. Schools that they have the EMI, they don't teach Connect, but they teach what we call Connect Plus. So this is only applied in the schools that apply EMI. And in the education system, we have this in the National English Language Curriculum Framework from grades 1 to 12. It says that the learning of English opens up the world for our children and youth. It gives them the ability to become active participants in the knowledge-making society and raises their awareness of multilingual and multicultural world they live in. English is the principal international language of diplomacy, knowledge, business, and tourism. Thus, it has a dominant position in international media, in science, and in modern technology. A high percentage of world publications in science, technology, and commercials published in English. That is why learning English as a foreign language is assuming an increasing importance worldwide, as well as in Egypt, both within and outside the school system. Through learning English, learners will develop the confidence to communicate effectively in speaking, listening, reading, and writing English that will enable them to participate actively in a global society. So with this vision, you see that English is a very important subject in the Egyptian education system. Yet, English language is being taught as a subject, not a language. So the 6 skills are not being applied in class. And you can see that clearly because part of my work, I also work at the American University in Cairo, and I used to work at some point in the teaching English for adults. Adults mean anyone that has graduated from school. And we have approximately 40,000 students per year that come from different places to the main campus only, not the other campuses of the American University in Cairo, who want to take an English course. This is in addition to the British Council and the Mid-East and a lot of other institutes, prominent institutes that provide English as a second language for adults. So because the fact, even though the government puts a lot of weight on teaching English and learning English, and even though people understand why English is very important, but because it is taught as a subject, and the most important thing is to get a grade, because this grade will enable you to go into universities after that. It's not being taught as a language with the skills and so on. However, a survey done by the British Council in Egypt on approximately 200 students from different schools, and the survey was done from different schools, from government schools and private schools and so on, it revealed very interesting results. It revealed that 97.9% agreed that learning English is important to the future. And 94.2% agreed that learning English, so that means that they feel that English is very important. And last but not least, 95.7% agreed that lots of people being able to use English is good for Egypt. So it's very ironic that even though people believe in this, yet when they are in school, they take English as a subject only to get the grade. They don't care about the skill of learning English. And then when they graduate, they want, and that was very amazing for me, because I remember very well, I would ask the students when they come, why are you taking English? You have been studying English for 12 years. Why are you taking English now? And so on. So why didn't you study it when you were at school? And it was for free, by the way. But then they were looking for the grade, not for the language itself. And this is very ironic. Looking at English as a medium of instruction in Egypt's new education system, we have it in both cases. We have a case where we have math and science in the schools, and we have it in the international schools where we have math, science, and social studies. So in the international schools, they don't abide to the MOE, the Ministry of Education curriculum. They provide the math and the science and the social studies, and maybe sometimes they provide character building, the music, the arts, and all this is provided in English. But in the EMI schools, they provide only the math and science. So when we look at schools, and again in Egypt, in the government schools, of course, the Arabic schools do not have EMI. The experimental schools, they have EMI. The language schools, the English ones have EMI. Of course, the French don't. The Japanese schools, The international public schools, they don't abide to the Ministry of Education curriculum, so they have their own curriculum, and they also have the social studies also is also in English. In the private schools, of course, the Arabic private schools don't have. The national institutes, they have EMI, and the language schools, the English ones. The religious schools, of course, the English, not the French. The international schools, they, as I said, they have their own curriculum. Other schools, they have some of them, they provide EMI, some don't. And some of them, they work all in Arabic, and others, they provide EMI, but a small minority of them. And the embassy schools, of course, they have their own curriculum. They don't abide to the Ministry of Education curriculum in the first place. Let's take a look at the math and science in the new education system, called a new multidisciplinary curriculum. It's called Discover. In addition to Connect Plus, we have the Discover, and Discover is being given in English. It can include science, social studies, and art. So in addition to the math and the English curriculum, we have this Discover. It's presented in Arabic, English, or French. Goes to the schools that provide EMI or French. Grade 4 onwards, we have the math and science. They are in English, and the subjects are all interdisciplinary after that. So we have math, science, social studies, Arabic, English, and more. We have math and science are delivered in Arabic, English, or French. So if it's an EMI school, they will have it in English. And the one thing that happened in grade 4 onwards is that in the math and science, the numbers would change from the Arabic curriculum. They're going to the Arabic numbers, which is the 1 to 3, which are originally the Arabic numbers. And this started in grade 4. Before that, they would take the Hindu numbers. This is a sample of one of the books that's provided in EMI in the math. So you see it's all about totally in English. Even the design, the layout, and everything is like any other language. And if you look here at the top right, you will find the QR code. The QR code will take the students directly to the Egyptian Knowledge Bank, where they will find the digital resources, whether we're talking about learning objects, it could be videos, it could be interactive learning objects, it could be a group of pictures. It depends on what is the need for that. And this is a sample of the science, and you will find also QR codes on the top right of each page. And these are all taught in the EMI schools. In Egypt, what are the benefits that the first thing is that people totally believe the accuracy of the language. So students and parents will admit their students and their children to schools that have EMI for the sake of having a good language for their students. And the other thing that people believe in Egypt is that it will provide them, if their children have a good language, this will provide them a better opportunity for international mobility, work abroad, study abroad, anything after that. So this will give them a better chance for mobility. And of course, this will give them a better chances for better jobs, whether we're talking about locally or internationally. If you're talking in English in Egypt, or you have some terminologies that you're using in Egypt, this will give you some acknowledged social status. So people believe that if you have another language other than the Arabic, where we're talking about English in specific, this will give you a social status in the society. And they believe that this will develop their characters because you're being introduced to a different culture and different opportunities. You have the opportunity of looking at things on the internet more, watching things on TV better, understanding what's going on around you. So this will develop the characters better. But are there any challenges? Yes, of course. There's a lot of challenges to the EMI implementation in Egypt. The first challenge is the quality and style of teaching. Language in class is Arabic and the terminologies are used in English, and that is enough to force the teachers to speak in English all the time. This will always happen because, as we mentioned before, in the challenges to the EMI implementation in general, is that the teachers and students will tend to resort to the mother tongue. So if there's not strict rules from the school that teachers have to speak in English, they will speak in Arabic and utilize the terminologies in English only. Teachers who enter the faculties of education are usually graduates of public schools. And they will enter science and math, of course, there, but then their English is not that good. Private language schools or schools who have been taught in the EMI will not go into faculties in education. They will go to other other faculties, and then they will take teaching as a job for them, like me, for example. But when I took teaching as a job, I took several certificates before even going to the masters and PhDs and so on. But not a lot of teachers will do this. Language, in the fact of teaching itself, this is not very easy to find in Egypt. So to find a science and math teacher, most of the times the science teachers are graduates of faculty of science, and the math teachers are most of the times graduates of the faculties of engineering. And they are most of the times people who prefer to teach, but they don't have the teacher's experience or the strategies of teachings or the knowledge of the pedagogy and so on. So the availability of qualified teachers is not very much. Inadequate teacher training for teachers of math and science. The only place that provides training for the teachers for math and science is the American University in Cairo. And the American University in Cairo is not a very cheap place for a lot of people to go. So it's not very feasible for the math and science teachers to take the teacher training there. The teaching culture is that a lot of times teachers prefer that they speak in Arabic because they feel that this will help the students learn more. They want the students to get good grades. So the important thing is that the students get good grades at the end of the academic year. So the school would be happy and the students would be happy and the parents will be happy. So it's a lot of things, and it's the easy way out all the time. Something very important yet we have to take care of and we have to focus on if we're talking about EMI in any place is that in EMI courses, we do have the EMI, the English is the conduit through which content subjects are delivered. It's not a purpose in itself. It's only the channel through which the subject is delivered. So students acquire the knowledge of the content material while ideally on the road, en passant, they are improving their English language proficiency. But it's not an objective that I want to improve their English language proficiency. So the key to distinguishing EMI development, a side effect of instruction rather than an explicit pedagogical target. So when the pedagogical target is to improve the English language development, then we will lose the essence of EMI. So last but not least, a final thought on this is that students who are only exposed to EMI for brief periods of science and math, but the communication in the class and the class routines and everything, and we cannot say that these students are really in an EMI structure. For EMI must be accompanied with BICS, which is the basic interpersonal communication skill, and contrasted with CALP, which is the cognitive academic language proficiency, where all the functions of the language are utilized, everything in the language. In communication, the cause and effect, the hypothesizing, the comparing, everything is being used in EMI. These are the resources I took from, and thank you so much for listening to me. and I'm available to answer anything. Anyone has any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Dalia Fouad, for your insightful and entertaining presentation. So Ms. Dalia has talked about EMI within the Egyptian context. We have a set of questions, but let me first summarize what she has been talking. So she talks about English language, which is being taught as a subject rather than a language. She talks about a survey conducted by the British Council in Egypt on approximately 200 students from different schools, and she gave us key, findings. So we have 97.9% agree that learning English is important for their future. So we see that there is a kind of positive attitudes towards considering English as a subject, not only as a language. So concerning the questions that are raised within the commentary sections, the first question, what is the difference between EMI and the ESP?
Okay. The difference between EMI and ESP, like we have like English for business, English for medicine, English for something. So it's a special purpose that you want the students to learn the terminologies in English and so on. But in EMI, you utilize English as a context for learning something else. So in EMI, you give them the grammar inside the class, you give them vocabulary, you give them a lot of things in addition to the terminologies of the specific subject. So if you, for example, giving them English for email, for business, you have to give them how to write emails, how to write so on, and in email and so on. But in EMI, you don't tackle the English language at all. You only tackle the subject that you want to teach.
Okay, yes, thank you, Ms. Dalia. The second question, how do you ensure that teachers are adequately prepared and supported to deliver EMI effectively?
I believe that if you learn from a teacher who has stopped to learn, and by the way, this is not my saying, it's a quote, that means that you're drinking from still water. Teachers have to be subject to continuous professional development. That's why we call it CPD. It's continuous professional development. Things are changing and are changing very fast. And if you don't take continuous professional development, you will be out of the market. So this means that you have all the time to give training courses to the teachers, give them, assess their needs, and give them the things that they need for the training. So if you feel that the teachers, they need teaching strategies, you have to give them. If you feel that they need classroom management, you have to. If you think they need some learning strategies for the students, you have to give them this. So it's all about assessing the needs of the teachers and providing the professional development that fits their needs.
Thank you so much. The third question, what specific progress has been made in the last 6 years since the launch of the educational reform in Egypt?
Oh, a lot happened, but unfortunately, when it was grade 4 and it was the time to assess the new education system, it was the year of the COVID. So they were not able to assess it with direct numbers and so on. But a lot of researches has been done and have been published lately about the level of the students. It will not be very clear until a proper assessment is being done for the students. So up to this moment, yes, people are talking and the vibes are everywhere that the new education system, especially from the parents who have students or children who are in the old education system and ones in the new education system, they can feel the difference in their kids. But to properly assess this will not happen until there's a proper assessment being conducted.
Thank you, Ms. Dalia. We still have more questions. It seems like the attendees find your presentation very insightful, and it's also thought-provoking. That's why they raise a lot of questions. The next question, what metrics or criteria have been used to assess the quality of education during these 6 years?
Well, a lot of things have been used by the Ministry of Education. One of them is assessing the teachers themselves. One of them are the grades of the students in relevance to the grades of the students, the types of the questions, because the exams are now not on the memorization on the exams anymore like before, and more into the higher levels. The first year, there was a lot of issues in changing the concept for the parents and the teachers and the students on going up to Bloom's taxonomy a little bit, not just remaining in the bottom of the pyramid, but then things have been moving onwards. It's not moving as we used to, or we hoped it would be, because also of the COVID and so on has laid us back a little bit. But things are moving of the students in the schools. The attendance rates have increased a little bit in the past years because of people are finding that when the children go to schools, they get better grades. And one other thing, this is a little bit commercial, we do have what we call supplementary books. The selling of the supplementary books of the Ministry of Education has been going down, and the companies have been suffering from this because people feel that I don't need the supplementary books anymore. We do have the main education books are there.
Thank you so much, Ms. Dalia, for your answers. We still have one more question. So last but not least, how do you expect students to react to such method, taking into consideration that it is a foreign language?
Okay. It depends on a lot of things to encourage their students at home and the level of education of the parents. Are the parents educated enough to understand, not necessarily that they do have good English, but are they educated enough to understand the importance that their kids know English language well? And at the same time, how the school is utilizing it. Is it utilizing, as we said, just the language inside the class, and then everything is in the mother tongue, or inside the math and science and the English, students are not allowed to speak in English? Because I've been in school like this. My school, we're not allowed to utter a word in Arabic, not a single word in Arabic. So it depends on the school system, and it depends on the parents and the perception they cascade down to their kids.
Okay, thank you. There is still one more question. Someone has just, ask a question. So what evidence-based practices can guide schools in optimizing the balance? So it is about the balance between promoting English language proficiency as well as ensuring subject content mastery. So how can we afford, let's say, a balance between promoting English language proficiency as well as ensuring subject content mastery?
Well, this is a very important question because this has been the dilemma of the schools who have been utilizing EMI. They had the dilemma, should I hire a teacher with good English language, or should I hire a teacher with good teaching skills but bad English language? And in the end, most of the schools will go to the first option and give these teachers professional development, because if the teacher is not confident in the language and is not utilizing the language fluently and accurately, this will be cascaded to the students. So to have the balance is to have students who have been in language schools, and then they graduate and go to any other university. And then after that, they come back and they want to teach math and science and English. So they have no problem in communicating in the English language. And this is how they get the balance of the language.
Thank you, Ms. Dalia, for your informative presentation. We have learned a lot from you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, everyone, for attending. And I hope it was informative as you wished it would have been.
It is indeed. I'm confident that attendees have learned a lot from you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So let's call it a day. So for the attendees, they can have their certificates for attendance. So Professor Mohamed Gengami is going to take charge of that. Of course, after they feel
yeah, sure. Thank you, Dalia.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much for the insightful. Yes, I'll send the link so that you can get your No, it's not. It's not. Sorry, 1 minute. So please fill in this. It's not this. This is it. Okay. This is the survey. So fill in this survey, please, so that the Arizona University will take charge and send you the attendance, let's say, certificate. And thank you, Dalia, for the great presentation.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
Rashida, for your efforts. Thank you.
There you are.
Bye bye.
Thank
you,
you.
Ms.
And
Dalia. Thank you so
and-
much. We appreciate your great participation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Looking forward to see all for the second webinar in September. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Okay. See you then, inshallah.
Allah. Bye.
Goodbye.